What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, DFS, and in today's video, I'm going over tight ends to target for week one. So if you guys are interested in getting my sheets, the link for our Discord will be down in the description. I have sheets for the Showdowns and the Main slates, so just kind of my player pool, whether it be a cash play, a tournament, someone I like for value, and just injuries to watch for. So breaking it down in this slate, Brock Bowers, 6,500. Trey McBride, 6,200. So two above 6K tight ends on this slate. George Kittle right below him at 5,800. Brock Bowers, I don't think really you need to play in cash unless you want the New England and target Drake May and Stephon Diggs or Hunter Henry in this one. I don't think you need to add Brock Bowers on this slate. I'd rather pay up at a running back position to make sure I get the running back. Now, if you're like me and you're targeting a cheaper quarterback, it is easier to afford a more expensive tight end on this slate. But if you want the security of, for some reason, paying for an expensive quarterback on this slate, I mean, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to do both. So, Brock Bowers, I don't think you need to get to. Trey McBride's interesting going against New Orleans, to where New Orleans team is kind of in a rebuild state. Don't know what their quarterback play is going to look like. Defense is changing. Lost, one of their best defensive players. So, don't know exactly if I want to target Trey McBride on this one. I do think it's a good matchup for Trey McBride. I just don't know if I'm willing to pay that price week one. If I'm paying for a tight end up here, right now George Kittle looks the best. Seattle's got a good defense. I like their secondary, but the thing is for San Francisco, we already know Brandon Ayuk's not going to be there. Juwan Jennings, I believe his hamstring. It seems like it's just getting worse. He really hasn't practiced at all through training camp. So with that, you're kind of looking at Ricky Pearsall, George Kittle, CMC. Those three guys kind of take a charge. We know George Kittle, when he needs to, he steps up. Played good against them last season in one of the games. But still, with the uncertainty of the wide receiver room, how good Seattle's secondary is, I like George Kittle as a guy to be that number one pass catcher in this offense in week one. Will it happen? Right? I don't know. But at the same time, I love Christian McCaffrey, and it's going to be really hard to play both Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and not play Brock Purdy. So that's definitely a decision you're going to have to make when constructing lineup. So George Kittle right now is my favorite for a pay up. We go a little bit lower. David Njoku at 4,700 against Cincinnati. We know how bad Cincinnati's defense is. The connection, the last time Flacco and Njoku played together, Njoku's played with a good passing quarterback, and like Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco, kind of the same style, right? We've seen it the last two seasons when both those guys got in. It was like, to me, it was like, I don't care. Like, hey, I'm going to put some stats up on the board. I'm going to show teams what I'm capable of doing at times. We get Joe Flacco back for week one. So David Njoku, yeah, I think at 4,700, he's a really good matchup, division game. I like him at 4,700. I think if you want to go just a little cheaper than George Kittle, he's definitely the play. I will mention Tyler Warren at 4,400. I don't like the price exactly, but I want to get exposure to pretty much everybody on Indy side with how bad Miami's secondary is. And I mean, besides their defensive line, they have some really good pieces, but the linebackers, the DBs, I mean, you have Minka, but still. I will mention Tyler Warren. I don't think it's nowhere near a cash play, but worth mentioning. Kyle Pitts is one to watch for if Darnell Mooney is out in this one. I definitely think he's worth a look. Granted, I know it comes of saying targeting Kyle Pitts. But it is a good matchup for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, that's kind of one thing they struggled with in the last couple of years is fantasy points to tight ends. But I think it's because they do a good job of trying to control wide receivers. But Kyle Pitts will be in a good spot if Darnell Mooney misses. We continue to go down on this one. I did mention Hunter Henry. 3,900 on the slate going against Vegas, which was one of the worst defenses against tight ends last season. Granted, this is last season, not this season. But I will mention Vegas did not do a lot defensively to kind of change a whole lot, right? They have a whole new coaching staff, but as far as player personnel, there's not a lot that's changing. Granted, you have a lot more pieces on New England, right? You have a shiny new running back in Travion Henderson. You added Stephon Diggs. You drafted Kyle Williams, brought in Matt Collins. Like, complete overhaul to where Hunter Henry doesn't need to be the number 2 pass catcher, number 1, however you want to decide it with how that wide receiver room was last year. But I do think Hunter Henry's in a really good spot. His price point's $3,900. I don't know if I am willing to say that's a cash play, but I do want to get exposures to him in tournaments. I will mention as well, Cade Otton is $3,800 against Atlanta. Atlanta, their defense is getting better, but it's still not elite. And with the injuries that we already know with Godwin, now McMillan's going to be out. Obviously, Mecca Ibuka, a lot of people are expecting him to take a good first stride into the season. But Cade Otton, when injuries happened last season, Baker Mayfield relied upon Cade Otton. So maybe with the, we could say we love Emeka Ibuka as much as we do, but I don't know week 1 if that tandem is ready to explode yet between Baker and Ibuka. So I am interested in Cade Otton in this matchup against Atlanta. Like I said, Atlanta has some good corners. Granted, these teams played in a scoring pace last season, so definitely getting exposure to these teams isn't bad at all. So I do like Cade Otton in this one. I will continue to go down. And man, some of these names down here, like, I think it's a really healthy slate as far as the tight ends. I like the quarterbacks. I like the tight ends. So I am skeptical of Darren Waller. He's $3,500. I think it's a little more expensive than what I would like to pay for a week 1 Darren Waller first game back in over a year. So I'm skeptical of it. I do want to get exposure in tournaments, but definitely staying away from cash. Same thing with Dalton Schultz, to where Nico Collins is obviously the wide receiver 1. They're bringing in Christian Kirk. They draft 2 new teammates for wide receivers. Joe Mixon, where's he going to be? It's a different offensive coordinator, so maybe we see what we sort of saw in moments between Dalton Schultz and CJ Stroud. But, man, it is tough to bet and put your cash lineup faith in Dalton Schultz. But I definitely think he's worth a look, especially in tournaments for the price. $3,500, right? The same price as Darren Waller. And then we continue to go down. And, man, I'm not joking, we get some great value. Brenton Strange, $3,300 against Carolina, their defense was just bad overall. I mean, their passing defense would be so much worse if it wasn't for how bad their rushing defense was. So, Brenton Strange, kind of a familiar face for Trevor Lawrence in this one. We didn't see the strongest connection between Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence last season. They had their games where it definitely showed, but it seems once Trevor Lawrence went down, that was when BTJ kind of shine. And then Brenton Strange, when Evan Ingram was out and he filled in, I think he did a good job. So at $3,300, yet again, a guy I'm fine with getting against a Carolina team who made some small upgrades defensively, but nothing to make this defense entirely change from one of the worst to a mid-pack defense. So definitely want to get exposure to Brenton Strange as well. And then we go down. And another name I want to mention is Ja'Tavion Sanders against Jacksonville. Yeah, Jacksonville did get better defensively. I will say in the passing game, especially if you include Travis Hunter, their secondary did get better. But Ja'Tavion Sanders is a cheap price against a defense that I don't see any real significant changes to the middle of the field. So Ja'Tavion Sanders is kind of worth a look at his price point. And then if you want a very cheap play, Elijah Arroyo against a very tough San Francisco team is $2,700, but I'm not kind of targeting that. So basically where I'm at as of right now, if I can afford George Kittle, right, if I'm fading CMC, I want to get George Kittle, right? I either want to get Kittle or I want to get CMC. Possibility of both, but I want at least one of them against the Seattle team. If not, Kittle, right, let's say we play CMC, we still want to get a a top tight end. David Njoku is there at 4,700, and then going down, Hunter Henry's an option at 3,900. Start to look more cheaper at kind of like the Brenton Strange and kind of going there with it. So that's kind of where I'm at with tight ends. So for me right now, what I'm looking at in my cash lineups is George Kittle first, then David Njoku, Hunter Henry, kind of see some of the other teams, and then Brenton Strange at 3,300. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.